I don't see this here, but I did read part of an article where John Boyega was interviewed, and pretty much they asked him if he'd ever come back to Star Wars, and he's like, no, I'm good off that. Uh,
Yeah,
and
I
then
think I saw that too.
yeah, and
He's
then
like,
people were like,
no, never.
yeah, and then people were like kind of getting mad or whatever, and like talking shit or whatever. But it's like pretty much what he said is like he doesn't have any hard feelings or anything, but he feels like what he did is there and it's done, and he appreciates like how much has changed in the few years since he hasn't been in Star Wars. Because we all saw
Mm.
like with Kenobi, like all the racism that came out, like people just being racist towards Moses Ingram, who played what's her face. I don't even remember her character's name. Riva, that one.
Yeah,
And how like Ewan McGregor came out and spoke against it, and like the writers and everybody at Star Wars was kind of like posting about it. And he was like, that's great to see because it's like progress. Because when it was happening to him and like Kelly Mertran, no one said anything. Like no one stuck
yeah,
up for them, And it's like pretty much, he was saying like when I was there, I wanted to have conversations about stuff like this, and it was just uncomfortable. Like they wouldn't have those conversations because like they were uncomfortable to have. But now it's
yeah,
like in this small amount of time, we see how much has changed. We see, the studio and actors coming out like directly and saying something. Whereas like, dude, it's actually crazy for me to think about that. Like when John Boyega and like Kelly Mertran were like literally getting forced off Twitter from racist trolls. Like
mm.
no one said any. Like no one from Star Wars came out. No other actor came out. Like
Yeah, and it happened to that entire cast too. Like with Daisy Ridley when she just faced like a horrible
she got
slaughter of
she left Twitter too.
sexism.
Yeah,
Sexism. Like she left Instagram, she left Facebook, she left every social media feed. She doesn't do social media anymore. She sells them back. It's fucking it's nasty. Star Wars fans are fucking nasty. But we've been over that, over
yeah,
that many a time. The reason George Lucas sold Star Wars, like he, it's not about the money. George Lucas is guys, trust me, like 2.2 trillion, 2.1 quintillion dollars. Like George
no.
Lucas had all the money in the world that he could have wanted. It's like there's
Bro,
no way that
George
that guy.
Lucas still dresses like he
He,
works at fucking Trader Joe's, dude.
yeah, okay. Well, he's a huge nerd, and I think like that's like what Bill Gates does too. Like he already just wears like the sweater or like the butt. He's dressed a little more classy now, but Bill Gates still kind of dresses like still kind of like that too.
Yeah,
Um, but George Lucas didn't sell Star Wars to Disney because he wanted 2.1 quintillion dollars, whatever the fuck they gave him. He
four
sold Star
billion.
Wars. He sold Star Wars because it was just he was probably getting I would imagine actively getting death threats pretty much every day, like to his address, like in the mail. Probably threats against his family and friends, stuff like that. It's just he wanted to be out of the public eye, and I totally don't blame him because people like at the end of the day, like a lot of nerds are just horrible, awful people that don't know how to socialize, and since they don't know how to socialize, they think that there's something wrong with the world and not wrong with them, so they take it out, on the world, on the internet.
Right. I mean,
And
Star
it's
Wars
very
isn't even
unhealthy.
like Star Wars is like it's hard because it's like you have multiple examples of like the same kind of bullshit happening, and it's like there's
Mm,
also like the instances where it's like because of how far we've come in society and because of how enlightened we are now, like and it's still not perfect, but like like it's good to see so many people standing up now against like just outright racism and people just being shitty. Like it's good to see that, but then like because of how we are now, it's like then they want to go back to times when we literally weren't there yet and try to like cancel everything from those times. And it's like one of
mm.
the big ones now is like Wizard of Oz because of all the stuff that was like happening on set back then and how like they were making the actress who plays Dorothy like take diet pills and how like all these different things like people literally like the little people that were in that movie were literally bought from their parents and shit like that because that's how we treated little
Yeah,
people back then. Like, and it's like we
yeah.
can look at that now and say, yeah, that's really shitty, and look how far we've come. But you shouldn't be like, oh my god, this is so awful. We need to cancel all these people and do it. Like, that's just how the world was. Like, and it sucks that it was ever like that. But like, you can't retroactively do shit like that. Like you can't use today's standard for morality and then retroactively apply it to everything.